Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Paralives. Sorry it's been a few days since the last episode, and for those of you who are sort of following these videos as and when they come out and you've been paying attention, sorry this isn't the build you were expecting. I was working on a Cape Cod style mansion with a Ralph Lauren interior. My biggest project yet, to be honest with you. I'd spent about 3 days on it and my game crashed, and loading it back in just could not get back into it. I tried everything I could find online. I tried verifying files and copying save files and moving them out and removing mods and adding mods and everything you think you could try, I did. And unfortunately it looks just like the save file itself was corrupt and I had no way of sort of getting it back, unfortunately. But I'm not too disappointed. It is early access, is the kind of things that we know are going to happen, and we just kind of take it in our stride. For the most part, the final project for me, the final product even, is the video that I produce. So everything that's already done, I don't really mind that it's gone away. I'm going to be building lots, and reusing lots and stuff. I imagine, like this one here, the really fun little lot in between two buildings right in the downtown. I'm sure I'm going to rebuild this a dozen times with different styles. So I'm not too worried about that. It was mostly just difficult because it was about 3 days worth of building that I haven't really got anything to show for now. So I will be redoing it at some point, but as you can probably imagine, I just needed a bit of a break and to do something else, and also just wanted to get a video out for you folks. And I'm enjoying the game, and wanted to sort of keep the wheels spinning. So we're doing something a little bit more straightforward, a little simpler today. A Scandi townhouse, I guess. The exterior is loosely based on a townhouse in Amsterdam that I found a great few reference images for. But really, the interior is where the majority of the fun stuff comes today, and the what I wanted to talk about. Will say that this is a really fun plot to build in, but it is tricky. I don't think this is a great one to start with. I think if you're just new to the game and want to play around with the building tools, just go and pick one of the sort of big rectangles of grass and you'll have a much better time. Here, the walls, you have to get them lining up just right. There's a lot of foliage up the buildings that peek through the walls if you don't make them thicker, and the roof was very tricky to get on because you're not really able to drag it out to the right size. Tried various things here by turning the toggle town on, which for the most part worked, but then the roofs kept disappearing. In the end, we settled for using the advanced move tool to just get that extra little bit of a stretch. But yeah, not the most intuitive to work with this, but I am pretty happy with what we came up with. Moving on to the interior then, and yes, this is a Scandi build. The Scandi interior design movement comes from, as the name implies, Scandinavia, a geographic region of Europe, mostly consisting of Denmark, Norway and Sweden, but it often encompasses other Nordic territories such as Iceland or Finland. It emerged during the 1950s alongside the modernist movement of Europe and America, and similarly to its design cousin mid-century modern, we've already looked at on the channel. It prioritises democratic, affordable and sleek designs, but whilst mid-century was formed as a response to the more sort of gaudy traditional themes before it, Scandi design embraces the history of the Nordic countries, whose more traditional design themes were already very functional and neutral, stemming from the Nordic region's cold, short winter days and a desire for their interiors to be cosy, yet very bright and open. As a design style, it's never really gone away since its emergence in the mid-20th century, but a noticeable spike in interest in the 2010s has continued its lasting relevance today. An obsession specifically with the concept of hygge, I think it's pronounced. I apologise if I'm butchering that. It's the idea that spaces and lifestyles should prioritise calm and sociable comfort. This movement sort of swept America, perhaps most notably seen in the New York Times bestseller, The Little Book of Hygge, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. The defining characteristics of the design are functionality, clean lines, natural materials in neutral colours, natural light with light colours used for both paint and wood finishes, and distinct textural accents such as wool or coarse fabrics like jute. Keeping the walls light, Scandi design can take on different forms depending on which end of the spectrum of minimal or more adventurous that you gravitate to, but the walls should always be considered a canvas. Stark white or a very light cream is used to lighten up walls and offer a blank space to work on, with splashes of colour and texture coming from the fixtures and fittings instead. An Audi design-inspired space is incomplete without textiles. Chunky knit blankets and area rugs can do a lot to make a minimal space feel warm and cosy. Whilst the most devout Scandi spaces stick to light neutrals as a colour scheme, I really wanted to try a second level of challenge here by bringing in a signature accent across the whole build. Obviously yellow. It keeps in line with the bright and natural aesthetic, with the brightest tones being reserved for splashes of colour here and there, or a statement piece such as the dining room chairs that you can see there. Now, it's almost possible to talk about Scandi design without mentioning the flat pack elephant in the room, IKEA. Founded in southern Sweden in 1942, it is a cornerstone of Scandinavian modernism, with its design philosophy mirroring that of the larger Scandi design principles: functionality, clean lines, natural materials, especially like lighter blonde woods, bright, airy spaces, and perhaps most importantly, democratic design, the belief that high quality, beautiful home furnishings should be affordable to everyone. I'm not sure there's a student accommodation in the country that doesn't have a Billy bookcase or a Lack side table. We often joke about the funny Scandinavian names of IKEA furniture, but even that is a democratic, organised process. Sofas, chairs and tables are all named after Swedish places. Beds and bedroom furniture are all named after Norwegian places. Rugs are named after Danish places. Bed textiles, such as sheets and blankets, are all named after flowers and plants. And bathroom items are all named after lakes, rivers and other bodies of water. All these names contain between 4 and 12 letters and go through a rigorous review process to avoid unfortunate or offensive meanings in other languages. How incredibly Scandinavian. So I had a lot of fun putting this one together. Again, it was really just sort of like a recharge and sort of getting back into the the groove after losing quite a lot of work. Early access. These things happen, but it was. I just wish it was any other build, because everything else, basically, every video I've done so far on the channel has been about a day and a half's work. And the Cape Cod mansion was the first sort of big project I was tackling. A sort of big 4-bedroom house with a granny annex and a games room. A big family. So it was a little irritating to lose it. It is what it is. These things happen, and like I say, I tried everything, and the file is long gone now. This is a completely fresh install on a different hard drive, even. So there's no need to, in the comments, let me know other things I could have done. It's gone, okay? It's dead, Jim. I think originally I tried to make this look like a rented apartment and then realised that I was just sort of making myself have too many rules. So this kitchen actually ends up being fairly fitted and probably fairly high budget. A lot of the time with these, I'll just search for the style of design I'm building plus room. So I'll just type in Scandi kitchen and find an image that I like the look of and work from there. Or maybe it's one or two different images that I put together. I like the counter cupboards of one, or the layout of the shelves of another. But this one, I love this the sort of blonde wood on the lower cabinet, and then a white plastic finish on the top, or a vinyl finish, I guess. I'm a big fan of IKEA. I don't have that much IKEA furniture myself now, but it was formative for me in my 20s. I pretty much kitted out the entire house with the stuff. And I'm a big fan of the design principles of modernism in general, but also especially sort of Scandinavian modernism. So whilst my house doesn't look like this much anymore, and I've now gone for a more classic mid-century design throughout the place, there was a time where I lived looked very similar to this. Partly because I enjoyed the style, but also it was cheap. There's items of furniture that IKEA sells for less than $20, which, is pretty impressive, especially when you're a young, poor student. I still have a dining table from IKEA, actually, thinking about it. My dining table and chairs are from IKEA because they're great. And I think maybe this desk that I'm sat at might be from IKEA as well. But for the most part, everything else has sort of been retired or replaced with something a little bit more personal. Moving on here, I was going to originally put a bathroom down here, but then I thought afterwards that it's a bit of a small space, and also a small townhouse like this probably wouldn't have a second wash closet. So instead we just turn it into a very all-encompassing storage. There's some clothing and then some larger kitchen items that just don't fit in the main kitchen area, or perhaps more honestly don't fit the design of the main kitchen area. It doesn't necessarily have the staged look that some of the other builds I've done. I did want this to look minimalist and clean but lived in. So there is a few sort of bits of bobs hanging around that would probably be put away if this was a bit more of a staged area. But still, I think the design lends itself to having more functional things like food packaging tucked away. I think overall I did a pretty good job with sprinkling in the yellow. There's a good chance there's a few green pieces or orange pieces. For those of you who don't know, I mention it every few videos because I think it's worth mentioning for new folks. I'm quite colourblind. I have tritanopia, so do struggle quite a lot with colours, which you'll see why I'm constantly referencing back to hex codes, and you'll see pretty much every piece I put down, I go and copy from a colour from elsewhere. The woods here were quite tricky to do because they are meant to be sort of very light, or what they call blonde woods, things like beech, and I wanted to make sure that I was in the sort of zone to make it look like blonde wood and not painted yellow or painted cream. So I think for the most part I nailed it. It is a little tricky when I'm working on my own. Sometimes I'll get my partner to come over and check things for me. I think she pointed out that the couch was green at one point. It's now been rectified into a yellow, I hope. The rug here ends up going away, I think. Oh, maybe that's the one I settled with in the end. I originally put more of a classic Persian rug there, which is something you could find in a Scandinavian design. Very often the textiles are one of the few things that have a lot of texture and design to them. Oh, there you go. I replaced it with something a little bit more sort of like a jute rug there. Because whilst I do think it can work, it just didn't quite look right in this build. I think sometimes in these games, you have to sort of really stylize and really lean into the style that you're doing. I think if you don't, it can look a little lost or a little wishy-washy if you don't really sort of lean into what you're doing, especially to start off with while you're really sort of figuring out the game. I think it's worth sort of really leaning into a vibe and being like, no, I'm building a very Scandinavian property here. So whilst there are opportunities for a little bit of more of a boho vibe, I guess, with thrifted pieces or vintage pieces, I really wanted to keep this to, I mean, honestly, look as much like an IKEA showroom as I could. I'm a big fan of going to IKEA now, even though I don't necessarily buy much of their furniture. I'll just go sometimes and grab some tea lights and meatballs. But one of my favourite things that they do is that they have the little apartments sort of done out, and you can literally walk through the whole apartment, and there'll be a sign as you go up saying 600 square feet, and they get the whole sort of place in there. I think that's really good fun to go around and see how they use the pieces together, and sometimes use the pieces in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think to do when you just sort of see them laid out, all the tables next to each other, and then in the next room all the beds are next to each other. Sometimes you can see them use a side table, but it's as a desk, or vice versa, and I think that's a really great way to show off your catalogue. And honestly ties into how we play these games. I think a lot of the time, obviously, pieces in this game have a use, but I think you can often repurpose them and get more out of them. For instance, here I'm using kitchen clutter, or as the game lists it as kitchen clutter, to give some sort of nice minimalist options against the bathroom supplies. So it's not all just tubs of Head and Shoulders. Sometimes it's just nice little white pots that perhaps somebody who cares a little bit more about interior design will sort of decant the package stuff into something a little nicer. It's not something I do myself, but I know that it is a popular thing to do if it's something that you really sort of care about. This white metal tray here is a classic IKEA piece. A lot of the pieces of furniture in the game honestly look like they've been directly pulled from an IKEA catalogue, so this honestly is a very easy style to do in the game currently, but it was still a lot of fun to do. And I'm really happy with how it's come out. It was an interesting sort of challenge to try and just use one colour note. I think that's worked out pretty well as well. So there we go. Not necessarily the big mansion build I wanted to bring you. That's going to have to get sort of rebuilt from the ground up, unfortunately. But a nice build that I'm pretty happy with for you. I'm recording this after going out for a lovely meal with my partner, as it's my 40th birthday today. So I'm going to finish up this, get it uploaded, and go and have a nice glass of wine. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next one, be good.